We have to share stories, and who better to tell the stories than the cancer survivors?
My father had died, and I had gone to Florida. I had had a mammogram in July, and this was early October. And I kept having pain. When I came back home, I called my gynecologist's office and went in, and he examined me, and he said, "It feels like you have a doorknob in there." Well, it wasn't a lump, it was just a hard place. The following year, I went back in July for a mammogram, and they picked up on a shadow. That's all. They did 2 or 3 ultrasounds, still couldn't determine what it was. The doctor who did the ultrasound said, "I'd like to send you to a surgeon." He says, "I don't think it's anything, but I don't want you falling through the cracks." The first thing she did, she says, "I don't like the feel of this." So she did a needle biopsy, and it came back positive. So I underwent 8 chemotherapy treatments. Everything worked out fine, and I have been cancer-free since then.
When cancer hit our family, the whole family had cancer. You don't believe it's real at first. I have 2 grandsons that I've raised. The youngest one was 13, diagnosed with 4-stage testicular cancer. Had major surgeries for 6 years, but we had a lot of support. So all of these programs are very good. There's a lot of things that we didn't know. 3 years he was without insurance. Even though they thought they were sending it, we weren't getting it. Luckily we had insurance. It still was financial burden. That support's very important. We received cards, letters, telephone calls. Football players, Chad Pennington. He came to visit him and brought him football. He's bonded with a lot of friends from going to cancer camp. I mean, that was the best medicine for him. He's still working out there. He's just as happy as can be through all this. You didn't hear hardly any complaints from him. He's our miracle boy.
I don't think you can wait you can't be too young to get started with your PSAs, and you need to keep your appointments with your doctor. I was one that went to the doctor periodically, and when I turned age 50, my doctor suggested that I start doing an annual physical and questions how many in your family has been touched with cancer. I told him about my mother who had died with lung and brain cancer, my sister who had leukemia. So I did a PSA test and never had no signs of prostate cancer. 2 weeks after I was here, the doctor from Ohio had called me and told me that I should come back to Ohio and do another PSA test in November. Well, I went back in November and it had jumped clear to 7. I was told I should be looking for a urologist, and I found one in Huntington. The biopsy came back positive, and I chose the surgery. Did real well for almost 5 years, and the PSA started rising again. So we went into the more testing and found a tumor in my bladder. So we removed the tumor. The cancer had metastasized. It had moved to my lungs. I finished the 30 treatments of radiation. Well, we went back to the radiation oncologist, and he looked me right in the eye and he said, "Joe, if you were my dad, I would do chemo." So that was what we were looking for. Yes, I had side effects, but still yet I have a great support group of my church people and my wife. But I was very fortunate. I didn't have the problem with sickness, or I just had neuropathy. It set in after about 3 or 4 treatments, and he decided that he didn't want to do no permanent damage to me, so he stopped the chemo, and he suggested I do physical therapy, and it's already started to show improvement. I have the promise in the scriptures that I can do all things that strengthen you, and I believe in that, and my faith has held me up. Our support group has supported me in all different ways, and I'm really appreciative.
Back in 1969 with my grandmother, who was diagnosed with breast cancer. And back then, being in Appalachia, you did not talk about things that were wrong with you. I remember when she passed away, and that was the day everything changed for my mom. Her whole personality changed, and I didn't understand really why. Flash forward, I was 23, and my son was diagnosed with cancer. He was only given 2 days to live, and so my whole world stopped that day. He is here today, doing very well, through a lot of miracles and a really good researcher. But I will tell you, back then, the hardest thing I think that I can think of and remember, when we were going through the cancer journey, we had no backup. Back in the 80s, there really was not a backup or support system. I had a great family and a great church to help me through it. But through this journey, I lost a best friend 4 years ago who died at MD Anderson. I think it's time that we kind of open up and message out there to everyone that we need to really push the screenings, especially in Appalachia. We need to bring more people to the table to start talking about cancer, especially in West Virginia. The year my son was diagnosed, we made $24,000 between both of us. We had insurance, we were lucky, but our payment alone was $13,000 that year. So basically, we had nothing. There were days that my husband and I did not eat. So we would have food for my son. My parents did not know this, or his parents, because we were too proud to ask for help. We just wouldn't do it. If we couldn't do it ourselves, we weren't going to do it. We need to add a bigger support system in the communities, and maybe push more the detection and prevention. We need to start talking about our lifestyle